Now, energy prices have shot up in recent months, and there was more bad news for customers yesterday, with the warning that they could go up by another 50% by the spring. It's thought that around 4 million UK households are already in fuel poverty, and the Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng will hold virtual meetings with energy suppliers on Monday. Well, with me to discuss all of this is Angela Knight, who's the former Chief Executive of Energy UK. Welcome to the programme, Angela. First of all, we've seen around 24 energy companies going bust in the last couple of months. How much is the energy price cap to blame for this situation?
Well, quite a lot, because you see, if the wholesale prices are going up and you as an energy supplier can only charge a certain amount, there is a gap there. And for us, at the start, of course, they were able to pick up some of the difference, but now a number of suppliers, more than 20, have gone bust. However, those suppliers could have done something themselves, and that is they could have forward bought or committed to buy the gas and the power across the winter. They could have committed to have done that earlier. And the ones that have gone bust did not do that. That's what the large energy suppliers all do. They all do forward contracts, as it's called. The smaller ones, and particularly those who were new entrants into the business, they did not do it. And the consequence, as you can see, is on failure as far as the suppliers, these small suppliers are concerned, but also problems for the consumer. I wholly appreciate that they've all been transferred to another supplier, or another situation has been put in place, so they've still got their supply of gas and electricity. But nevertheless, it has heralded a problem. That problem is still not played out. There is more to come. And that more equals, I'm afraid, increases in prices because the wholesale market just continues to go up.
And I suppose there's now that problem of a shrinking market. What was a pretty healthy, dynamic, competitive market, it's really artificially shrunk by that government regulation, by that price cap. Now, does it make much sense for people to shop around now? We were always previously told to look around, to shop around. That will keep our energy bills low. With a smaller market and with higher wholesale costs, is that no longer true?
I think it is mostly no longer true. There will be occasions, I'm sure, when shopping around is worthwhile. But I believe that the way that the requirements are operating is that if you're with a supplier, and your tariff is ending, then that supplier has to put you on to a capped supply. So you're probably better sticking with that than you are shopping around. Shopping around actually might get you a worse price than a better price. However, I do think that, unfortunately, the whole story was never properly told to people. Clearly, shopping around was fine at a certain period of time, but that was only because you've got suppliers coming in, taking advantage of the low price of gas and not making sure that those suppliers held proper capital and had to buy those forward contracts. So what they were offering was sustainable in the long term. And unfortunately, the energy market has been subject to a whole load of sound bites, and the actual explanation of what is, albeit a little bit of a complicated area, has not properly taken place to the public. And it should have.
Now, I can't help but noticing that the wholesale price of gas in particular, natural gas, is shooting through the roof. And we're incredibly reliant on pretty nefarious states around the world for our supply, Russia and the like. How big of a mistake was it over the last 10 years to not pursue generating our own natural gas in this country, or rather fracking it out of the ground?
Well, you've got a number of things there. Could I say you're absolutely right to say that this isn't the result of 1 year's policy or 3 years policy or 5 years policy or one government in energy. This has been going from all governments, the Labour Party, Labour government, coalition and the Conservatives. And so there is an issue that one has to think through, not for now, but for the long term. And that is, how is energy policy logically and properly made? Because it cannot just be a series of sort of emotional desires to rush for a green supply. However good green supply may be, you've got to have your proper transition. Now, we, of course, have a lot of natural gas still in the North Sea, so that's always been helpful to us. And we have a big pipeline with Norway. We predominantly take a lot of our natural gas in that way. But you're right to point out that, of course, much of Europe is very dependent upon supply from Russia. And indeed, we get LNG, the liquefied gases comes in by tanker from places quite far away, the Middle East, Qatar and the like. There's also other pipelines now starting to come in from North Africa, not to us, but to other parts of Europe. The biggest supplier, I believe, in the world is Russia. Is Russia holding Europe to ransom on this? The answer is, to a certain extent, yes. It uses its economic power to play politics, and it uses politics and economics become interchangeable. So the very fact that they're a big supplier, if they start to restrict that supply a bit, then that results in the wholesale price of gas going up. Coming back to your point about what should we have done, well, I know that fracking is immensely controversial. At the same time, I think that it has unnecessarily been condemned. You can frack and you can frack safely, and there is more to be done in that area. What I think we should have done, though, is we should have had I'm going to call it strategic supply, a policy, if you like, from government, which said, right, we are going to provide whatever the subsidies need to be, which would vary from summer to summer, to fill up gas storage in the UK. So we've got, say, 3 months or 4 months of storage here rather than 3 weeks or 4 weeks. That would have provided us with short-term buffers. And in a market such as this, you don't just need the short-term buffer, you also need your medium-term arrangements, which in this instance, I would say, have got to be stopping switching off any more of the backup power stations, because don't forget, the power stations use gas just as we in our homes use gas. We use them for heating. Much of the power stations in the UK use gas for electricity, which is why electricity prices, of course, go up when these times are difficult. So they've got to fix that middle term bit and also continue to accelerate the research into small-scale nuclear power.
Of course.
So we start replacing both our old nuclear power and indeed our coal and some of our gas-fired stations with these small, safe, repeatable and much cheaper nuclear power stations.
And some really good news on those small modular reactors, some investment not just from the UK government but from overseas as well into the Rolls-Royce project. Well, all of these sound like pretty long-term solutions. I'm not sure if there's anything coming in the short term, but thank you for that analysis and the crucial point that Russia may well be holding Europe to ransom. Very, very concerning. I'm afraid that's all we have time for in this interview today, but we will definitely have you back soon because this is an issue that will roll and roll. Angela Knight, the former Chief Executive for Energy UK, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.